Innovative, yeah. You were innovative in your thinking and all that. And that story with the when you were working in the university, I can relate to that very much. There was one time I also had to travel with my executive's passport. In fact, he didn't want us to DHL his passport from Ghana to Senegal. He was supposed to travel somewhere. I can't remember the name of the country now, but we were struggling getting the visa to that country in Ghana. And we talked to our headquarters, in fact, the office for the West African for West Africa. And then they said they were going to be able to get the visa in Senegal. That's where the office was based. And so if we could get the passport there, they will get the visa for him because he had to actually be at that conference. So the option was for us to do DHL, but I think the time was too short because DHL was going to take 2 days to get the passport to Senegal and then 2 days to get the passport in. And I think we had barely 3 days, or I think 2 or 3 days, I'm not sure, I can't remember now. So the alternative was for me to travel to Senegal with the passport, get the visa and then return, come with the passport just to make it in time for him to travel. And that is exactly what happened. I just found myself coming to work one day, knowing I'm going to travel.
Wow.
When it happened that way, I had to that they go back home, pack my things, and then go. And it was a round trip. In fact, I think I just spent the night in Senegal. The following day, I got there at dawn, like 3 a.m. And the next morning, I had to rush to the office and get the protocol people to get the visa for him, and then return that same night. So. Yeah, wow. That's what happened. So as executive assistant, sometimes we find ourselves in situations like that. And now we are moving on to when you made an error, as executive assistant, sometimes it's not every day that things go well.
No, no, specify the executive or the institution.
Yeah, please don't.
we were meant to be traveling, and so this is so I was I actually booked the flights, so I had the full itinerary, but I was given a different assignment at the last minute to work on something not relating to our travel or to the travel. I wasn't going to travel. I was just to get him to the airport and back and return. And because as a personal assistant, sometimes you also function as a protocol officer for your executive when he's going through some of these standard checks at the airport and such.
Okay.
So I'd sent him the itinerary, arranged for the driver to get to his house and the time the driver should get there. But there was a miscommunication. Basically, let me just say there was a miscommunication, and I was incommunicado because I was given this other assignment. So I felt, okay, I wouldn't be going with them to the airport.
Okay.
So I just basically put my phone on silent so I wouldn't really get distracted, focused on my system at the office. And I just started working. It was a weekend. So I basically forgot that, there was need to check up on the logistics of the event, call the driver, have you gotten home? Has he come out? Have you tried to get his attention and all that? And I was just there at the office working away. And then I don't know what prompted me. Something just prompted me. No. I was supposed to take the items and drop it for him at home. So my mind was that when I get to his house, that he would already have been long on the road.
Yeah.
Like he'll be close to his destination, to the airport.
Yeah.
And as I was getting to his house, I saw his briefcases in front of the house, and he was holding his phone to his ear and he was looking sort of tense. And I was like, wait, no, he's not supposed to be here now. Or what's going on? Like that was just that moment of shock. So I quickly parked the vehicle I came with. I jumped down. I was like, what's happening? He was like, he'd been calling me for some time. Where have I been? Where's the driver? I was like, the driver? Where is the driver? So it was this moment of a bit of confusion.
Yeah.
And I just put everything I'd been working on, I even came with, I just put everything aside. Like, okay, now we have to find a driver because in Lagos, the university is actually in Ogun State, but the only airport on this side of the country is in Lagos. So there's a lot of traffic that you would need to pass through if you're getting to the airport, sometimes as much as 3 hours, but usually between an hour 45 and 2 hours 30 minutes. So we had to get the driver. I found out that the driver was, he'd found somewhere to rest when he came. He came in earlier because it was a weekend. So he just went somewhere to rest before the trip. And unfortunately for him, he'd slept off. And his phone was also on silent. I had been called, my boss had been called, no one was reachable. Sorry, the driver had been called, no one was reachable. And my boss was just getting frenzied. So I basically had to drive to where the driver was, wake him up, get him into the car. We drove to where my boss was, loaded the car, and you can imagine what that drive to the airport must have been like. It was very intense. So there was no way we could have met up with his flight. I had to start calling the agency that booked the flight for us to try to get the flight to move. They said, unfortunately, they wouldn't be able to do that. So I had to call the airline directly while on the road in traffic. And the airline said, okay, that the flight we were supposed to meet up with was the one for 4. There's another one for 5. That can we meet up with that one? And very optimistically, I said yes. But unfortunately, when we got to the last leg of traffic before the airport, everywhere was so jam-packed. In fact, I think there were 3 accidents ahead. So there was no way of predicting a timeline to arrival. And I just felt so terrible that day. And then I had to call the airline and say, you know what, we are less than 10 minutes to the airport. That's driving 10 minutes drive, or if you're walking about 30 minutes or 25. But there actually, apparently there've been 3 accidents. So we are unable to predict how quickly we can get to the airport. Is there a later flight aside of this one? They said there's just one final flight that was around 6 o'clock. So if we can't make it there in about 45 minutes, then, basically we're forfeiting the flight. And my executive just came down from the car and just began to walk because he was like, he would rather, time himself with that walk and know that in 45 minutes he'll be at the airport than try to fix the traffic situation. So just jumped out of the car, and then I think we walked a certain distance past that traffic area, and then I heard it was clear, so we were able to get a different vehicle just to get to the airport. And then he didn't miss his flight. Seconds later, the driver just pulled up because they know he was doing everything to get the car to the airport in time. So it was a bit embarrassing for me because it was I think that was one of the first encounters I'd had as a PA to the VC, because as a PA to DFS, there were no travels. I wasn't really traveling. I was just basically office operations. But this was my first time involved in external logistics, liaising with airport authority, flight airlines, blah, blah, blah. And then, having to also plan with traffic in mind. So it was a big model up from my end. And I learned a lot from it. Going forward, I was extremely meticulous. I was like, you know what, nothing given to chance, even if it means having a standby car moving with us at a certain distance so that if our car breaks down, some other car comes and catches up. I don't care. We just leave nothing to chance.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I can imagine how you were feeling. But I believe even in those circumstances, you were very calm and then optimistic. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to, get yourself around that situation. Interesting, very, very interesting story. Thanks for sharing with us, Jesse. Okay, so my next question is, I think we spoke a bit about World Administrative Alliance, but if you could share a bit more on it for us, how it started. I don't know if you know how it started, but how you became part of it.
How I became part of it. Okay, how I became part of it, that was in January 2019. I received an email from the CEO of the IAAP, Dr. Veronica Cochran. She was she as well was a member of the advisory council for the summit for that year. That was the World Administrative Summit for 2019.
Okay.
It was to hold in August. Yes, it held in August. So she asked me if I was willing to become a member of the advisory council in preparation for the summit. And I said, oh, that would be lovely. I would, be thrilled to be that, because I had served for a very brief period as the international branch director for the IAAP. So she just wanted me to also get a feel of that experience on the council, because it was also an international engagement, and I obliged. I was very grateful for the opportunity. So I was on the advisory council 2019 till the inauguration of the interim governing council. So the way the interim governing council was meant to work was that persons who felt they were up for the task to be members of the governing council for the World Administrators Alliance, sorry, would indicate interest, and then there will be a global vote when people all around the world would vote for the people who had indicated interest, and then the people getting the most votes will be the ones who will be inaugurated into the interim governing council.
Okay.
But I was not interested in being on the World Administrators Summit. I was just, you know, I was content with being on the advisory council, and then ceding the rest over to more qualified persons, because I observed that being on the council had a lot to do with your level of influence and your reach. You would need to have a number of associations that you collaborate with, that interact with you, and that you can lead as well with the information you get from the council. But I was still building that. I could not affirmatively speak to the fact that in Africa, I know a number of persons that are administrative professionals that I can guide and speak to and lead and everything. So I wasn't really drawn to it, but she encouraged me. She said that they would want someone. It's not really necessarily about a pool right now, but just someone who has, you know, some level of strong online community interaction, and then someone who is also quite motivated to ensure that the profession globally keeps advancing forward. And then it could also be a learning opportunity for me to get exposed to some, you know, key information that could guide me as a professional in years to come. So that was in June, July. So I indicated interest to run for it. The elections came in, and then that's how I became a member of the interim governing council. But the interim governing council's assignment would be wrapping up in August this year. And then a formal governing council will be inaugurated on September 4th. 2021. But I have also indicated in non-interest, like I don't intend to go further with them after September 4th, because I would want some time to focus more on my career as a person. I've had to attend some of the meetings. It's not like it's so demanding all the same, but the mental preparation and everything can be quite demanding. So I understand that a number of persons from Africa are being encouraged to indicate interest and apply, because there'll be votes, and they would love to have a representative from the continent to help them also speak to the global issues. And I feel it's necessary, because a lot of the people on the council currently are in developed countries. Some of what they call issues are non-issues for some of us here. And then we would need, would I say, an equal amount of footing to effectively air the issues that we face here, so that the profession is actually moving on at the same pace. Because it's very possible that persons in developed countries that don't really have as much issues or combat as much institutional negligence as we do tend to face here in Africa, they may be moving at a faster rate. They would be having, you know, progress on all sides and collaborating with government officials and all of that. And here in Africa, well, we're not having the same level of progress. And it just seems like the profession is moving forward, but not in some continents. For example, we don't even have anyone from Asia represented on the governing council. We don't have anyone from South America. So if we're calling it the world, you know, we have to have people from each of those regions effectively speaking to what the profession means in that area and how it can move forward as one. So it goes a bit beyond just sitting on the council, but ability to also interact with professionals in that area so that you can be a voice. So I'm actually also advocating on LinkedIn for a lot of people in Africa that are interested. Please try to indicate interest if you have the time also, because it's also going to be quite demanding, so that you can speak for the profession and we can have our perspectives aired at that level. But about the World Administrators Alliance, the first meeting, or the first ever summit was, I think, in 1992, if I'm not mistaken. And it wasn't called the World Administrators Summit. It was something like International Secretarial or Secretaries Summit, held in the US. 2 years, and then I think South Africa, and then some other countries. But when it changed to the World Administrators Summit, that was in 2015. I think 2015, it changed to the World Administrators Summit, and then that was when the advisory council began to grow in size. They began to involve more persons, and the essence of the advisory council at this time, that was in 2015 and subsequent years, was just to prepare for the summit. The essence of the summit was just to ensure that the profession globally, is growing, and persons can get to have a feel of what it means to be administrative professionals from different countries all around the world. So it's just basically influencing and developing the profession on a global scale. That was the essence of the various summits. But after the 2015 advisory council, widened the scope or the size of the council, 2019 advisory council recommended the inauguration of an actual governing council. So that it's not like every year you're gathering a fresh set of hands to prepare for a 2 or 3 day summit where you talk about things in the world that you want to do, and then everything just dies at that level. But you would have people who would actively be working on the reports from those meetings to meet with the objectives that have been agreed to against the coming year throughout the period of 1 year. So it's not like you're leaving it to 1 or 2 or 3 people to just go handle individually to see how they can move the profession forward. Rather, you have a body that is tasked with taking those steps to move the profession to the next level. So the interim governing council was inaugurated to relieve the advisory council of the constant having to meet before summit. But now they're going to be inaugurating a formal council. I think that will be operating for a 2-year window, and then there will be, a call for interest for new persons, or if the previous persons are still indicating interest to continue as members of the council.
Interesting. Thank you so much for walking us through how the whole thing started and how you became part of it. And I wish you would have, continue to be part of the advisory council to represent the continent. But I don't know if some people have expressed interest, coming from our part of the world. I'm just hoping there'll be an African on the advisory council, just to also share, our, what we are going through in this continent. Yeah. Yes, you were going to say something, I don't know.
Yes, I said I would also have loved to continue, but I think it's also expedient that I focus on my career as a person, so that I don't put the cart before the horse, if you understand.
It's possible that might happen, but as you are saying, once you build yourself in your career, you can always get back there. Is that not it? Yeah, I'm just hoping. In terms of associations in the continent, especially when it comes to West Africa, I don't know, but in terms of visibility, it's really, really difficult to see how these associations and network are working in our part of the world. For places like East Africa and South Africa, I see some level of visibility. I don't know about you, Jesse, but I see they are more vibrant. But when you come to West Africa, and then when we are even talking about West Africa, we're talking about Ghana and Nigeria, because we don't know about
other countries. We don't know about Mali.
Yeah, we don't know about, Cote d'Ivoire. We don't know about the Francophone country. We don't know what is happening there. Maybe there's something going on there, but we might not be aware. But you don't see that visibility much. And I think recently I also noticed that the WA Alliance is calling for networks and associations to register.
Yes, membership.
So, membership. So there's an amount that you have to pay to become part of it. And I think it's a laudable idea because it will give them the resources to also operate. And I believe I also think from conversation that we've had in the past, we think we all agree that if there are no resources to fund, an organization like WA Alliance, it will be difficult to really run it, because the work can be demanded and you cannot always do it on voluntary basis. you need to have some
Because
full-time people
if
working.
the organization is not funded, that the implication is that the people on the organization are using their personal funds to run things, which is unfair.
Yeah.
Which would be unfair for them. So
Yeah.
it's necessary that it has that.
Yeah. Okay. We are hoping to be part of it one day. I can't speak for now, but one day. And I believe that it's a right step. It's a step in the right direction. It's a step in the right direction. And if they're able to get the council, the advisory council running with now that the interim members are going away and they are bringing in new team to run their operation, I believe moving forward, we are going to get a lot of network and association getting involved, and it's really going to help our profession. I mean, so that some of the challenges that we are facing, we will be able to overcome them in the future. All right, so my next question is, what advice would you give to an aspiring assistant? You've been an assistant for quite some time now. So for somebody who is new to the professions or somebody who wants to come into the profession, what advice would you give that person?
Okay, the advice I would give the person, like I said, I believe being an administrative professional, either it is executive assistant, company secretary, administrative officer, legal secretary, anything, any of those subtiers that you find yourself in the role. There are three key skills that you have to build: ability to be a quick learner, adapt, you have to be very dynamic, and then you have to be a collaborator. I would just say that those three things are absolutely key to growing very quickly as an administrative professional. Quick learner is in relation to tools and cycles. The tools you would need to use to make your work more effective. It could be a Microsoft Office suite, it could be Google suite, it could be non-Google or Microsoft related applications on Android or on Mac OS. Any one of those tools that you can identify that can enhance your operational cycle and enable you to work more effectively with your executive. Those are things that you need to, those are tools that you need to quickly learn how to use. They could even be project management tools, because a lot of what we do is related to project management. Some of the cycles we initiate and operate, run and follow up on our project cycle. So those tools can help give you reminders so that you don't skip timelines or deadlines on several projects that you need to give your executive feedback on. So be a quick learner, adapt, and be a collaborator. Quick learner relation to cycles and tools. Now, when I mean cycles, I mean operational cycles of an administrative assistant. For example, document creation, document processing, document filing and retrieval. That's a cycle. Now, there are some tools that can enable you, automate that cycle without having to carry every aspect of that cycle in your head. For example, if you have an e-desk, you can easily create documents on it. You can edit documents on it. You can set reminders on documents on it. You can follow up on existing documents through your e-desk. Then if you have a Google Teams, let's say, suite set up for your office operations, you can collaborate with other people in the office on existing documents. Okay, John, can I have your contribution on this document? We want to submit it to the executive against the meeting on so and so day. Or if you're using Google Sheets, on individual notes that you take, perhaps as like minutes of a meeting, you can specify certain action points with calendar notifications to the respective emails of all the concerned party directly from Google Sheets. So when you create a minute-taking template on Google Sheets, you can just set up date calendar notifications to specific email addresses on each of the action points as it relates to those persons, so that you're not having to remember, oh, this person we discussed in this meeting, he was supposed to call this other individual and get their quote, or that Google automatically sends them reminders once you prompt the respective emails from Google Sheets directly. So it will prompt them 3 weeks to the time, a week to the time, 3 days to the time against the next meeting. So it's not like a day to the meeting. You're not calling them to say, have you been able to call this guy? We're having this meeting tomorrow. You're expected to give feedback on that and this and that. No, Google is prompting the person every day. And as it prompts the person, it also notifies you So it makes your cycle very efficient. You're not having to think about every single little detail. Some of those I's and T's are dotted and crossed for you already. So you can now have time to focus on your executive and then adapt more easily with them than having to think of all this and then be adapting with your executive. And, the person is giving you all these, lifelines and all that pressure. It helps you reduce it to a great extent. That would basically just be my recommendation. Learn some tools that can make your life easier and then understand the cycles.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jesse, for sharing that. That brings me to my next question.
Okay.
There are some people who believe that, with the coming in of AI, artificial intelligence, softwares and applications and all that, there's no future for our role. Very soon, the role of an assistant will not be necessary. What is your take on that?
I would say I would respond with one of the feedbacks I got from this last World Administrators Alliance. It was a lady from Sweden, and she said technology will replace the persons who don't learn how to use it.
Okay.
Technology will replace the persons who don't know how to use it. I think her name was Sophie. It was that comment just stuck with me. Like I said, there are cycles and there are tools. And then there's your executive. Now, if you are not needed, the implication is your executive will be using certain tools to do your job. And that is also going to take his time as an executive.
Yeah.
So automating your role does not mean they are bringing a robot that is another human being, because if there's a robot that can be another human being, then that robot can as well also be the executive. So my job is not the only job being threatened. The executive job is also being threatened. The accountant's job is also being threatened. So when we get to the point in time where we now have, sentient life or sentient artificial intelligence that can think for itself, come up with plans for itself, strategize for itself, then everybody is in trouble, not just the executive assistant. But if you're talking about because of the advent of technology, some persons are saying, oh, the future of the profession is at risk. I would say no. Over the last 10 years, a lot of professions have completely changed the way they operate because of technology. Some of the things that they used to do before, they no longer do because there are now softwares that do those things very easily and very quickly. So I wouldn't say the future of the profession is at risk. I would just say technology will replace those who don't learn how to use it. If you know how to use it and you can use those tools to collaborate effectively with your colleagues and you understand administrative cycles and how things work, then you're not at risk. If anything, you're going to become more valuable to your institution because some of those tools can make the institution achieve its turnover on activities a lot faster than usual. But it's for persons who don't want to learn or adapt to technology, that want to hang on to the way things are being done, that might end up being phased out because there wouldn't really be place for that.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. So it's those who don't know how to use the technology. They'll be the one who might end up losing their job. Absolutely, I agree with that totally. And I believe these tools that are coming in are just to enhance our role, to help us do our work effectively, to help us be able to have enough time to do other things. So as you said, we need to learn how to use them so that they don't end up taking up our positions. Anyway, just it's been wonderful chatting with you.
Same here.
Yeah, it's been wonderful and I've really enjoyed every moment of it. And before we end our conversation, I want to find out how we can connect with you. If somebody wants to connect with you, how would the person go about that?
Okay, I can leave my email address in the chat for persons who might be interested in contacting me. But I would say on LinkedIn, my first name is Jesse, Jesse, and then my last name is Egeonu. It's pronounced Egeonu in Nigeria. So and then there's the two suffixes are CAP and OM to my name. So if you type my first name, last name, and the word CAPOM, my information basically just comes out on LinkedIn. So I'm more active in a sense on LinkedIn than on other social media handles. I would have said You can reach me on Instagram as well, but Instagram is not really so professional per se. It's just to hang out and interact.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just try to copy your your LinkedIn what do you call it? URL? Yeah. And
yes,
then
URL.
okay, so that if somebody wants to connect with you, they just click on it and then get connected to you. It's been wonderful chatting with you, Jesse. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for making the time for this interview. I know.
Thank you so much for having me.
We planned this some time ago. It didn't work out, and I'm happy today it has worked out. Thank you so much, Jesse.
Thank you so much for having me.
I believe we'll have another chat sometime soon.
Definitely.